Never in my life have I seen a country burn through as much goodwill as Israel has in the 2 months after October 7th. In the immediate aftermath of the October 7th massacre, there was so much international goodwill directed towards Israel, towards Israeli civilians, and even towards the Israeli government. Even many fierce critics of Israel opened up their hearts and expressed sympathy for the people butchered on October 7th. And if Israel had decided to engage in a proportional response, perhaps something like a Zero Dark 30 style raid on some high-level Hamas operatives in Qatar or in Gaza, their actions would have been met with acclaim by the international community. The New York Times would have gone on and on about how this is more evidence that Israel is the world's most moral army, that they have a different value system than their savage Arab neighbors, and that they truly are the bulwark of democracy in the region. Thing is, none of those things are true about Israel, and I think that's exactly what Hamas was counting on. You see, they understood that in the immediate aftermath of October 7th, Israel would engage in a carpet bombing of Gaza. Why? Because they cannot help themselves. And to understand why they cannot help themselves, you have to understand the 75-year history of the colonization and the ethnic cleansing of Palestine. I have been revisiting this myself by going back through Ilan Pappé's book, The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine, in which he describes the early methods that the Israelis used to displace the Palestinian population back in the 1930s and 40s. These included building settlements on top of hills above Palestinian villages and rolling down barrels full of explosives and large steel balls, as well as oil barrels that would explode and ignite, and then when the Palestinians would rush out of their houses to put out the flames, they would shoot them with sniper fire. The book goes in depth to describe exactly how Israel planned to coordinate the ethnic cleansing of Palestine, which is remembered in the official Israeli histories in a very different way. There is a stunning familiarity to the methods that Israel employed back in the 1930s and 40s to the ones they are employing now in Gaza and in the West Bank. See, a lot of liberal Zionists would like to tell you that there is a distinction between the previous good Israel and the current bad Israel, which is characterized by the reign of Netanyahu, who is a fascist, and the vicious settlements in the West Bank. But the reality is that there's a direct through line to what was going on in the 1930s and the 1940s and the methods used to displace the Palestinians and what is going on today to finalize and complete the ethnic cleansing of Palestine. These are very uncomfortable topics for a lot of Zionists, both Jewish and non-Jewish alike. Part of the reason for this is that the official Israeli histories paint a very different picture of the founding of Israel, and you would only know otherwise if you had decided to question the official narrative and read actual historical sources about what happened during the Nakba in 1948. As my Arab Israeli friend Dahab likes to say, if you've read a single book about the history of Palestine, you've probably read more about it than most Israelis. 75 years of lobbying Western governments and championing a single narrative about the history of Israel and why it is so important has completely backfired, and Israel is completely losing control of the narrative, which is why they're becoming increasingly violent, both in Lebanon, in Gaza, and in the West Bank. This is a very common action on the part of colonial regimes who are reaching the point of internal implosion. As they lose sympathy and lose control of the narrative and the population, they take the mask off and double down on the violence. It is a horrific thing to watch, but it might also be the undoing of the conditions that allowed for this to happen in the first place. This is no longer an Arab issue. This is no longer a Middle Eastern issue. What Israel decided to do to Palestine after October 7th has turned this into an international human rights issue that's not going away anytime soon, and it's our job to make sure it doesn't.